Hey guys, welcome to my video on low ground, and I've actually made a video before on this YouTube channel about the specifics of low ground and how to actually execute this sort of strategy, because it is extremely beneficial and competitive, and I really think that it's something that every competitive player should be able to do, especially in trios. I've learned a lot since then. Me and my teammate Bucky have studied this deeply and VOD reviewed for hours on end to learn this sort of strategies. What we're going to do in this video is teach you all the things that we have learned since then and sort of update you on every little detail that I know about low ground in this particular video, and we can actually discuss a whole bunch of things because we're watching Scented and Edgey and Commandment, who are one of the best low ground teams in North America, period. When I used to learn how to play low ground, this was the team that I would VOD review. The benefits of low ground. Why do people like low ground? Like, why is it an actual strategy, and why is it a power layer as compared to height? Because the way I think about trios, especially trio moving zones, is that your objective throughout all moving zones is to either capture one of these two layers, and the layers are high ground or low ground. If you pick one of these two layers, you are guaranteed top two if you can successfully hold them. Let me say that again. You are guaranteed top two if you can successfully hold those layers as a trio. Let me explain why. So let's draw another diagram here, and let me fully explain to you why you are guaranteed top two. So let's say this is height, right? Obviously they have cones on top, right? Let's say height's up here. Let's say there's a bunch of layers in the middle. We'll consider these layers in the middle to be mid ground, okay? These are the mid ground layers. And then you have this layer right here. That's low ground, right? And then these two are mid ground. Assume for 1 second that it's not just two layers here, and there's like, I don't know, like literally the rest of the lobby, literally like 40 people here, okay? Right? And then there's a trio here, and then there's a trio here. What's gonna happen is that all these people in this section of the game are gonna get squished completely, because they will get pinched by height constantly spraying AR down at them, and then low ground constantly dropping people from below. It's almost like if you ever watch those horror movies where the walls sort of close in on you, you're sort of like set up like this, and you're in the middle, and the walls are closing on, you know, in on you, like because this wall is going like this, and then this wall is going like this. That's sort of what's happening here, right? That's exactly what's happening here, except vertically. The analogy that I sort of use is the fact that you want to be the buns of the burger, right? You don't want to be the meat and the condiments and the lettuce. You don't want to be that. You want to be this or this. And if you are one of those buns, right, you pick one of those layers and you continuously hold it throughout the end game, you will get top two. Problem is, with a lot of pro players understanding how important these layers are, how do you actually secure those layers successfully, especially with the whole complication with terrain changing all the time? What do you do in each terrain scenario? That's what I'm trying to get at, and that's what I think is super important in this video that I'm going to cover for you guys. Okay, so first off, let's talk about this concept, okay? Because it's extremely important, I feel, right away. Let's say we're watching from side to side. These are the storm walls, and zones going like this. Every time you see a pattern like this, where it's going slightly downhill, and your tarp is like right here, what you need to be making sure is that you keep low ground the entire time if you currently have it. And then you'll find that this is what Scented does, and he actually puts a big emphasis on it, and we'll listen to the comms after this. So what you need to be doing is, as it goes slightly low ground, you'll notice that these layers right here are layers that were not previously accessible to anyone in the lobby. So that means that you can immediately drop down here pretty comfortably without even looking, just knowing that there's not going to be anyone there because it was not accessible to the game. And then in that case, you can just move down to that layer and then continuously move down, right? In this case, you would move down all the way here and then build your tarp all the way on this bottom layer, so you continue keeping low ground. Like I said before, the terrain is slowly going down. You'll notice this. I don't think they immediately realize this, but eventually they drop, right? Scented slowly realizes and they drop. And I want you guys to recognize this, okay? You notice how they're going for low ground on transition. In my term, what I call a transition is basically, like, let's say this is half right here, right? Half, and then it pulls this way into first moving, like end of first moving, and then it pulls again, same direction, second moving. Can we agree that this is the congested side? Right here where I marked, this is the congested side of moving zones, and this is where most of the people will be in the moving zone because that's the shortest distance from here to here. Obviously, in a meta with launchpad, some people will be more scattered here, but for the most part it still holds true. This is dead side, right? And so, especially because if the terrain looks like this, what Scented, Edgey, and Commandment did was that they tarped like this. They didn't immediately take low ground, and the reason for this is that if zone pulled back up, they would have a tarp immediately to just follow, right? And it'd be really easy. But if they had dropped down immediately to keep low ground, it'd be really tough to do that, because they would have to ramp back up, okay? Now, What they're doing is that they're waiting for the transition. When this zone pulls, they're immediately going to drop down and then look for that low ground. If you react really quickly to any transition or any moving zone showing, you can immediately take low ground before any other team reacts. In the case that zone does pull this way, which it does in this particular game, they're immediately going to drop down because the terrain goes slightly downhill, and they're going to take low ground down here. That's really good that they did this. So this is first moving that we're looking at. They're sort of doing scuff rotates in the first moving, not using too many mats and sort of trying to walk rotate as much as possible. You see this? Because that's what you can do in first moving if you don't stay ahead. If you stay ahead in first moving, it's actually really difficult to do this because constantly the focus is on you. A lot of people are going to be at the front, and it's going to be really hard to sort of scuff rotate behind enemy builds like this. That's what I've seen Acorn, Jock, and Slacks do as well. They sort of late rotate, mid rotate first moving, and this allows them to free rotate like this and save a ton of mats, okay? They notice there's people in front of them. They slowly pressure together as a trio.
Yeah, holding, got it.
Really nice. And they're aware of their back, so as soon as they get pitched like this, they're going to immediately drop down because they can't go forward, right? Because there's another team there. So you sort of need to get out of this pinch, and the best way to do that is to just drop down. Yeah. There you go. Drop again. The comms are amazing. If you guys really listen to the comms. The comms are really, really good. Scented is constantly IGLing and telling the team what to do and repeating it so that no one mishears it. There's no chance.
Even further right, Further
right, constantly calming.
How many mats, bro?
205, 205.
Okay, I have none. I have 300 wood.
Okay, you see how they're elevating? They don't immediately go because they're already in static zone. And one point I want to really mention is that to have priority to take low ground on the next zone, you see how far ahead they come? The previous ping right here is where zone used to be. Look how deep they go into dead side, right? They tarp really deep. And this allows them to stay safe for next moving because then they won't get buried and they won't lose that race. But also, next zone pulls forward. It double pulls forward. That's what I call the double pull forward. Every time it double pulls forward, it pulls towards dead side, meaning that low ground, without even looking, you know it's free. And Scented understands this. Scented understands that in the double pull forward scenario, if it pulls towards that side, you are going to have the dibs on low ground if you invested a lot of mats to get to that side. You don't even need to look. So one more time. I want you guys to notice the transition. I'm gonna play it full time, no commentary.
Get ready.
Look how quick that was, right? That's the sort of understanding that you need to have about all these zone scenarios, right? Of like how to take low ground and what sort of terrain scenario you're in. Every time a zone pulls, like what can you do here? What do you have the leverage to do? Scented knows since the double pulls forward, pulls towards that side, that he has the leverage to take low ground right now. Because he spent a lot of mats to invest to get ahead. And in the static zone of first moving.
You want me to go down one through old build?
Again, it's still going slightly downhill. You see there's a slot available on the low ground here, and they're going to go down further. Another benefit of low ground that I haven't talked about yet is the fact that you do not have to place floors on your ground. That means you get mat effectiveness of a stair tarp while maintaining the benefits of a full tarp. If you really think about it, that like the mat efficiency means a lot, right? Because I know a lot of people would love to stair tarp, right? They would love to stair tarp, but on low ground, you essentially do this. You don't need to place this piece because it's the ground, right? There's no need to block it off, right? And you also don't want to cone too often if you want to look for impacts. You purposely place a floor so that if an enemy cones on top of you, you edit the floor 3 tiles and you look straight up and you trio spray and they should fall into your box. So this is really nice. You see how this and this are the same because it's 3 mats per tile efficiency in terms of mats. Also, if you're on left side of zone, let's say this is the zone and it's going like this. If you're on this side as a trio, you can do a tarp like this. Right, you don't need to block this side that often, and then every time you're like all the way ahead, you can block your back off completely and sort of compartmentalize to you 2 blocks total. There's so many options in terms of mat efficiency, right? Impacts are not the most easy thing to go for, especially in a pro lobby when people know how to avoid getting impacted, right? And know how to avoid getting dropped down into a box. It is much easier in a W key lobby to sort of get impacts in endgame because people don't know what they're doing. They have no clue. But in a pro lobby, impacts are not as reliable because people know what to do. So the best way to get impacts in endgame in a pro lobby is to really mat efficient. Find ways to be mat efficient. And low ground is unironically one of the best ways to do that because you don't have to place that floor, but you still get the full type. And also going through old builds like this is really beneficial because again, you don't have to tarp and you know there's no one in here because you're all the way ahead of zone. There's no team in front of zone like this. Every time Storm uncovers an area, you can pretty much guarantee no one was there, especially at the front. So they're looking for kills. So low ground's really good for looking for kills because I want to talk about this concept as well. If I were to give you a distribution of player congestion, right? I think we can all agree it looks something like this. meaning that low ground is really congested because a lot of people that don't have mats will naturally drop to low ground because they can't build, so gravity takes them down to the lowest layer. These are the really nice times where you can find kills on people that don't have mats, because the people that don't have mats naturally drop to the layer that you're on. So you naturally, because you're tunneling on that layer, you will find the most amount of impact just because you own the edit. And then you can decide, hey, I want to pick this guy off, I'm gonna box him and call my team over and make a wide edit so we can 3v1 him. And then slowly you can pick off people just like that. And then eventually when the zone gets really tiny, you can do this strategy where you don't place walls at all and you just cone floor, right? And you'll see Sent and NRG doing that here and there. And we'll talk more about this later on in the video.
1 to 0 1. Gonna need a refresh soon.
Right up here, we could look.
I have 200 wood, only have wood.
Piecing it.
Nice, in the box. Okay, so
In box.
you see, that's the sort of thing that you could do with low ground, and it's really important. You can achieve a very similar effect here to dropping someone down. Obviously, harpoons don't exist in this season. This is the grand finals of the previous season, but you can achieve a very similar effect by triple spraying and being coordinated that way and getting someone down here. Just like this, right? And you see how they place a floor to isolate that team and make sure that they're getting a 3v1 and not even a 3v2, because 3v2s still favorable for you, but it's still somewhat risky, right? You would rather not. You'd rather a 3v1, and that's exactly what happens.
Pro build.
Constantly calming their mats, they get an impact, so the 12 builds don't matter anymore. Now they can look to tarp. Look where it pulls, they can go around the right like this.
Far I'm going.
And they need to get uphill. You see the terrain change right here? As an IGL and as a tarper myself, I immediately noticed this. This is a sense that I have, where like the terrain goes up, you immediately need to get ahead and build before you get suffocated. Well, every time the terrain goes up, there's another terrain scenario, right? We talked about the slightly downhill and how you want to maintain the layers here, and how if you're already in static, you can sort of do this and then wait to see where zone pulls, and then if it's zone pulls forward, you can sort of, you know, drop down really quickly and then take this layer here. Okay, so now let's talk about the opposite direction, right? If it's slightly uphill like this and you're low ground, what you need to do is, first of all, identify that this is the case ahead of time. You need to make sure that you understand that this is what's happening, because the problem is if you tarp low ground like this and then second layer, third layer above you decides okay, I can just take low ground if I stay ahead, you know, just cover you up. Now you're suffocated, now you're dead, right? So what you need to do every time zone pulls into a scenario like this, let's say it pulls something like this, right? Which is exactly what happens in the game. And Sent and NRG are right here. It pulls uphill, right? It pulls uphill for them like this. And as soon as zone pulls, you'll see Commandment immediately get up, right? Because he doesn't want this team back here, right, to cover them, because that's the danger when you're going slightly uphill and you're low ground. That's the danger, is because if this team gets ahead of you, this team right here, if that team gets ahead of you, you are now done. It's gonna be really tough for you. You probably will die unless you can find an alternative route. Every time zone pulls, recognize this terrain scenario, and you need to understand what the terrain scenario is asking you to do. Okay, so what they need to do here, they lost low ground here, you'll notice.
Yeah, oh, I'm dead.
There's actually a path right here. They can barely see it.
No, on me.
It's really difficult. Again, really difficult to do it in the middle of a game. I totally understand that. In tournaments, you rarely play all the theoreticals correctly. Okay? So it just doesn't happen, right? Because there's so many other factors at play in terms of nervousness, in terms of pressure. Like there's a lot of things. But there's a layer bottom right. They could take it if they wanted to. So this is what happened. This is the thing that you guys should really look out for when you're looking to play low ground. This sort of scenario where it goes so slightly downhill like this, right? You can actually notice this in the game. If I go back just a little bit. So first it goes uphill, like I talked about at the very beginning of this moving.
On me.
And then right here, you see this? This area, if they break this tree and then go down one layer, they have low ground again. Right now, someone's challenging them on low ground and they don't have the leverage to keep it because of their map count. So, and also Commandment's sort of unaware about like that edit, right? That's sort of how he dies. But if you can go down here, right, and I really do believe you can fit down here, right? There's so many benefits that you get. So let's talk about the first benefit. The first benefit is that you're able to tarp like this. You don't have to cover your right as much, and you don't have to cover your floor. Really efficient tarp. You can go 5 blocks with the mats that Edgey has. If you can transition down here, you can go 5 blocks forward on that bottom layer that newly got exposed because of the terrain going slightly downhill. So technically, Edgey, Sent, and Commandment are now on second layer. They're not on low ground. And if Edgey really understands this and really goes down, he could actually claim low ground again and really save mats. Again, doesn't have to place this and doesn't have to place this. 2 mats per tile, really efficient. That's going to make it so that they can go 5 blocks forward, and we don't even know how many mats Scented has. We have no clue. That's the reason that they died here. They sort of stayed on second layer, and then someone actually contested their layer. So they can actually go down here. Again, you'll notice what Scented does. I want you guys to pay attention to this. You see what he does?
Drop low, front.
This is the layer that I'm talking about. right? This layer, this is what Commandment should have realized right away. And so this branches out into a whole new topic of why I believe every single person on your team needs to be able to understand the game sense of tarping, because sometimes it's really difficult because some panic situation, or your tarper, your main tarp and your like secondary tarp need to heal, and now the third person who's fragger needs to tarp. He needs to understand the game sense of tarping, because it is so crucial to keeping low ground and so crucial to understanding how to survive.
Creep that.
So okay, like I said, this is crazy, isn't it? So
Chill, Edgy,
so
chill.
they go for the counter shot to get them off, right? And then watch this. So
Nice.
Sentin finds that layer that I was talking about
Dropping
earlier.
low,
Drop low.
Front.
And then you see this tarp right here? You see this exact tarp that I was talking about in paint.
Dropping low,
Because
drop-
they're right side low ground,
Low, front,
they don't have
front.
to place the floor and they don't have to place the right wall. This is the benefit of low ground. Look how efficient this is. With 10 builds, you can go such a big distance.
Front.
They're able to like block off their back to make sure that anyone doesn't follow them up.
Split
and
me AR.
surprise
Give
them.
me AR. How many builds? I have 3.
So now they're
Putting
screwed,
this-
right?
putting that
They,
down.
they need to get a kill, and this is the benefit of low ground. It's so easy to find kills. If this guy didn't have mass, it's so easy to drop him down and look for the kill.
Ready, wait.
Top two.
Grab this.
And top 2. It is so easy, guys. If you claim low ground, it is
2v2,
extremely
2v2,
easy
2v2.
to find top 2, because you are the top and bottom of all the layers, and you're slowly squishing everyone in the middle, and that allows you to get top 2. Sometimes you have low ground from the beginning of half or like first moving, and then you lose it. Okay, that's the thing. Understanding the terrain scenarios, understanding that as soon as next moving pulls, you're ready to go and you're gonna go immediately. That's gonna be key for you to keeping low ground. That's gonna be the end of part 1 of this low ground series that I'm gonna be creating, but stay tuned for more. Like, there's definitely more, and there's a ton of information that I would love to release and tell you guys from all the stuff that I've learned from VOD reviewing and explain it to the public. Couple of things. There's a lot more concepts. Again, there's a lot more terrain scenarios. There's something called expanding closing side that I want to explain in future parts. There's spraying up as a trio instead of cranking for hay when you have a 3v3 scenario in the final 2. There's a whole bunch of different things that I want to explain to you guys, and they'll be coming up in future parts. I really want to break this video up into parts and sort of make it a series if possible about low ground specifically. So if you're a low ground team, you can watch all of the parts together and learn all about it. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope that this is something that you guys will find useful, especially all sorts of comp players on my channel. I know that you guys exist, and there's you guys are the majority, right? You guys want to learn all about comp and learn how to take these layers and understand the intricacies of endgame, because it is a complicated thing. It's not easy, right? It's not something really simple, otherwise everyone would succeed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.